Nearly 20 hours after Melissa Norby is murdered, her home set on fire, and the 5-year-old girl she was babysitting abducted, cops were knocking on the door of her on-again, off-again boyfriend, Jacob Kinn.
This is someone who was already on your radar, in a small sense.
Yeah, it was a name that we knew.
Jacob Kinn was a registered sex offender.
He was obsessed with child porn. He would almost continuous throughout the day access some image sharing sites of young girls.
When detectives first arrived at his house around 10 o'clock that night, Jacob wasn't home.
So we decided, let's ping his phone.
Special Agent Paul Girardi says they asked Jacob's probation officer to contact him to face questions about the now missing child, Brittany.
It's common that registered sex offenders, you're going to get talked to if a child goes missing in your community.
Shortly after midnight, Jacob Kinn willingly walks into the sheriff's station.
Appreciate you coming in. Did your probation officer tell you what's going on?
Jacob tells Detective Girardi and Senior Special Agent Chad Musaeus that he's already heard about the fire, murder, and missing girl. Right away, he admits to knowing Melissa Norby.
I haven't talked to her in like 6 or 8 months.
Jacob says the two once worked together. About an hour into the interrogation, he learns the real reason he's called in.
We got reports that you had a relationship with Melissa.
Jacob says he heard the same thing and believes he knows why Melissa would be spreading the rumor.
I was dating another girl at work and she got off.
Jacob insists he and Melissa never had sex.
I wasn't the least bit attracted to her.
Detectives then show Jake a picture of the missing child, and he admits he's seen her before.
She showed me a picture of her once a long time ago.
Who did?
Melissa.
He identifies our missing 5-year-old's photo, and I'm thinking in my head, wait a second. She's 5, you saw her when she was 2, and you can immediately recognize her as somebody you know?
Cops ask Jacob where he's been for the last 48 hours.
Instead of starting 2 days from now, let's start backwards. So, where'd you just come from?
What Jacob didn't know is that before he arrived for questioning, detectives had already determined his location through phone records based on his probation officer's call.
Well, I was fishing up north.
Okay, fishing where?
Clear Lake.
Clear Lake is about 50 miles north of Bemidji, but Jacob's cell phone actually pinged in a town called Big Fork, about 40 miles southeast of Clear Lake. Jacob tells detectives he was fishing from shore at a resort, but he can't remember the name.
Was there somebody there that saw you there? The resort owner?
No,
Can you describe it to us? Kind of help us out a little bit with that.
just a resort.
When Detective Musaeus steps out of the room to get a map, Jacob asks why detectives are so curious about his exact fishing location.
I'm still not seeing why that matters at all.
I'll tell you why. Basically, Jake, your cell phone doesn't put you in that spot tonight.
Well, that's where I was.
If you were here, there's cell phone towers your cell phone would have put you at, instead of being, way over here.
Despite the cell phone ping, Jacob insists he had been fishing at Clear Lake.
I don't know how that would have happened, but I wasn't in Big Ford. I had no reason to be in Big Ford.
Detectives believe they know exactly why he was there. They quickly turn the conversation, pleading with Jacob to tell them where the girl is.
Jake, something bad happened. If something got out of control and somebody ended up dead, and this little girl is somewhere, whether she's alive or whether she's gone, we have an obligation to everyone to bring her home. Jake, if you can help us with that in any way.
I would if I could, but I don't know where she's at.
Detectives ask if they can search his vehicle, but Jacob refuses.
Why won't you let us search her?
Because at this point, I don't trust you guys.
Cops were now certain Jacob had murdered Melissa and abducted the girl. They desperately try everything to keep him from leaving, but time is running out.
You can either go get me the judge's order right now. No, like right this second, or I am walking out the door and taking my car with me.
At one point, with one of the detectives out of the room, Jacob tries to bolt.
You're not going. Sit down.
No,
Sit down. Sit down.
you said I was free to
down.
leave.
Sit down.
You said I was free to
Sit
leave.
down.
At this point,
Sit
sir, you're
down.
gonna have to have a seat. Okay?
At this point, I want to call an attorney.
You can call whoever you want.
Have a seat.
After 4 hours, he offers to leave some of his personal items, but cops have no choice but to let Jacob Kinn go.
We take his clothes, we take his Jeep, we take his phone. We literally send him home because at that point, we don't really know quite what we have yet.
But that was all about to change.
I yelled, bingo. I said, you guys gotta come look at this.
Next, cops uncover an elaborate kidnapping plot involving more than just Jacob Kinn.
That phone data turned this case upside down for us.
Plus, the tire tracks in the woods lead to a shocking discovery.
The text message says, arrest him.
Jacob had willingly left behind plenty of evidence for investigators: his clothes, vehicle, and most importantly, his cell phone.